Welcome to month 6 of the Stellar Stars block of the month. I can hardly believe that we are already into our 6th month of creating this amazing quilt, and I am really looking forward to sharing the 6th block with you called Lodestar, and it probably has challenged me the most so far for no other reason except the color choice. I really resisted working with green and yellow together. It's not my normal thing, but I love the results. Sometimes we have to push ourselves just that little bit into feeling some discomfort with our choices to kind of uncover that bit of creativity that's hiding underneath there. And I hope that you find your own creativity hiding underneath your fears and challenges with working with new techniques this month, and with working with new techniques throughout this entire process. You're doing an amazing job, and I hope that you are discovering talents and skills and creativity that you didn't even realize was there before, or you knew it was there and you're starting to really let it out. This month is foundation paper piecing once again. We're going to put together this block, Lotus Star, and the main colors are yellows, greens, and the darkest of our grays. It might look black on video, but it's actually really dark gray. I'll walk you through the process step by step. It is going to be very much like what we have done in the past. This video will be different than the Mississippi Star video from month 4 in that we will be doing 8 quadrants or 8 units total. So each corner here is made up of 2 triangles. So we will be making 8 total. We'll be making 4 unit A's and 4 unit B's, unit A and unit B, and they'll rotate around the block. In the pattern that you'll receive if you have signed up for our Stellar Stars block of the month, and if you haven't yet and you're just enjoying these videos, learning new skills, I welcome you to keep doing that. If you do want to make the quilt and receive the patterns, you can find it on my website, and I'll put the link down here for you, or at least the website, and I'll put the link in the description. In that pattern, I'm including multiple color layouts. So it's the same block, but and some of them I put the greens out here, the yellows here. I even colored this in one of them. So you can kind of play around with it and really see and decide if a different layout, different color option works for you. Or you can stick with this one, or you can come up with your very own, because you'll also get the blank block layout as well. So let's go over our fabrics. This month's subscription bundle is 3 different greens, and you'll notice that there's only 2 greens used in the block. The 3rd green is there for you if you want to play with some color options. If you want to use 2 different colors than I use, you're welcome to. And then the 2 yellows, which are used in the block. The dark gray, which is gray number 1, going back to all of our previous grays in the other blocks. And finally, the snow for our background. In addition, our thread bundle includes some amazing hand embroidery and machine piecing threads. I'm going to piece with the Silk Surfing number 2712, this really lovely gray. It is a different gray than is in the piecing set, so it's a nice addition to what you've already got if you purchased the Surfing piecing set. There's also the Soie de Paris 6-strand floss, 2 spools of perlé, 2 spools of the Soie 103, and then 1 skein of the 7-strand Dalgé. And in addition to that, you're going to need your Elmer's washable school glue with the fine tip on it, and a little bit of a glue stick, your regular rotary cutter and rulers. Add a quarter ruler is always helpful if you've got one. and your willingness to give this a try and use different colors than you may have thought to use before. So let's take a look at the templates. Let me put this aside. So in your pattern, you will receive the templates for piecing your block. You'll notice that there's an A unit and a B unit, and the ones in the pattern will have a few more labels. I'm finishing that up for you. And you will print those on either the lightweight foundation paper, which is what I'm using, or the just regular printer paper, depending on how you want to do your foundation paper piecing. You'll need to print 4 copies because we need to make 4 unit A's and 4 unit B's to create the full block. You will also need to print out the cutting templates if you choose. Again, yours will look a little bit different than this. This is just my draft, and once I finalize the pattern, it'll look all nice and formatted for you. So you can use these to help cut out your fabrics, to reduce waste, and to get a little bit more of a precise placement with your fabrics. I really enjoy using them. I also include the grain line for you, so you know once these are all cut up where the grain line is for you to align your pieces. So next up is for you to go ahead and prep the fabrics that you're using, whether they are the ones from the subscription bundle or what you're using at home. You'll need 2 greens total that have a nice contrast, or the contrast that you're happy with. I chose a higher contrast, a nice light and a dark, but you're welcome to choose a medium and a light, or a dark and a medium. 2 yellows that are also contrasting, a dark gray. This will be the darkest of your grays, the same that you used for the little center square on the simple Sue block, and your background fabric, and then your thread of choice for piecing. Next up, we will cut up our fabrics. I do recommend going back to video 1 on fabric preparation if you can't remember or just need a little refresher. I will go ahead and starch all my fabrics once to twice on each side, and they will be ready to go. Go ahead and do the same, and we will get this made. Let's start cutting up our fabrics for the Lotus Star. I'm going to start with piece 1A, and you will need 4 of 1A. 1A is your darkest yellow. If you do 1A, sorry, I had my light yellow on top. If you do accidentally do your if you accidentally do 1A as your light yellow, the block will be reversed. So again, it can be something you do on purpose or on accident, totally up to you. But just keep in mind what color the template is supposed to go with. The pattern will include a list of what each template color should be. So 1A, we need 4 of these. So you can either cut them out individually following the grain line. The grain line can be on the straight grain or the length grain, so either along the width between the selvages or parallel to the selvage. So if you did it that way, you'd need to just make sure it's aligned with the grain. Doesn't matter which grain it is as long as it's a straight grain. And this piece, again, we need 4 of them. So if you wanted to, you could fold it in half and cut multiples at a time. If you're using a print fabric, just be careful not to cut rights and lefts. If you fold your fabric in half, then you'll be cutting a right and a left. So go ahead and cut out 4 of these. You can use your rotary ruler if you want to. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it around the outside line. These cutting templates have a 3/8 inch seam allowance, so they give you some wiggle room. And we'll go ahead and get 4 of those. What I like to do is rotate this around and nest it next to the piece that came before, because that gives me less waste as well. So when you're cutting with these templates, cut with the right side up with the template and cut with the right side up for your fabric. If you're using a hand die or solid, it won't make too much of a difference if you cut from the wrong side. And it's hard to tell if there is a wrong side sometimes. But if you are cutting from a print, make sure that this is facing up and that your print is also with the right side up. I'll continue cutting the rest of those. That darker yellow that we used for cutting piece 1A is also used for piece 6A. 6A goes right into the middle. You'll need 4 of these total. So from the same fabric, go ahead and cut out 4, aligning your grain line along one of the straight grains, and we'll go ahead and just cut around those edges. And we'll get all 4 of those cut. Now again, you can rotate your piece around and nest it along one of the lines from the previous piece, the edges I mean, and just kind of cut along, and then you are ready to go. And then we'll need 4 of those total. All right, next up, piece 2A. That is our background fabric. 2A is along this outside edge, 2A and B. So A is the dark, B is the light. So this would be A and B are our background fabrics. Align it along the grain line here. And I do prefer aligning it along the length of grain, so parallel to the selvage. It's wider here than it is long. And unfortunately, I just had a scrap of white left handy. So as long as it is along the grain, it really doesn't matter too much, because with paper piecing, we do so much stabilizing. It's going to be sewn to a foundation with lots of other pieces holding it in place. So it is just fine to align this to the other grain. I'm going to go ahead and cut it through on 2 layers just to show you how you can get 2 at the same time. Continue cutting these out, and again you'll need 4. And don't worry if it shifts around, as long as your piece is bigger than the size of the template, or the exact size of the template. So you'll need 4 of these total. I'll cut the rest as I'm going. Now also from our background fabric, we are going to need piece number 4. Piece number 4 is a piece that's on an angle. So let's take a look at the block again. Piece number 4 is this piece here. So you can see it's on kind of an odd angle where it really has no straight, as in a 90-degree line. So we have a 45-degree here, but these two are kind of an off angle. So keep in mind that grain line. That's going to help you a lot with aligning it, because it's really easy to want to do this or to want to do this, but then we get our piece off grain, and it can cause a lot of stretching and issues when we're not working with it on grain. So I'm going to move my white down a bit so I have a fresh area to work with, and align my grain along the straight, my grain line along the straight grain, and then cut around this. You'll also need 4 of these. Okay, and I have a little extra up there. So once I've gotten all 4 of those cut, you're ready to keep on cutting the rest. Next up, piece 5A, I'm going to align 5A along the straight grain. Now be careful with this one. This looks like that is pretty straight, but it's really not. We need to give it a little tilt. Okay, just a smidge of a tilt so you can see the difference. See, check that out again. Straight. See how that's at an angle? Now that is more straight. So we'll cut at that, at those edges. And we'll need 4 of these as well. Okay, and again, you can take this and just flip it around and nest it and fit it in to cut your next piece. Okay, you'll need 4 of those, and then finally our piece 3A, that really pretty dark gray. On your dark gray, you'll align this grain line straight as possible, and you're going to cut 4 of these. So what I can do, if I nest it all the way over here, I can get another one over here, then I can kind of finagle it to get them to work in this space. You'll have larger cuts. I just had the scraps left over from all the cuts I did for the bundles, so that's what I'm using here, which works just fine for me. Alright, so I'll cut 4 of these total. And so there's my first one. And I can rotate my piece around and nest it in there, or just kind of move it along the same direction to try and get all 4 in there. Just as long as they stay on the straight grain, you are just fine. So you'll need 4 of these for 3A. 3B is the same exact fabric. It's just the mirror image of this piece. So that way they come together and make that point in the middle, just like this. So we've got 3A and 3B here, making that band right there in the middle. Now for that lighter green that is in the middle of the block, that is going to be piece 5B. You'll cut that just like you did 5A. And once you have all your pieces ready to go, you go ahead and get your templates ready to piece with. Just like magic, all my pieces are cut and ready to piece into the foundation paper piecing templates. Keep your cut templates together, all of the same pieces, just to help you stay organized. It's much easier to keep them in little piles rather than kind of search for them later on. So if you clip them together with Wonder Clips or a pin, straight pin, anything like that, that will help you just to keep things organized and kind of in one area. Will make a big difference in how long this will take you to put together. So I'm going to start with pieces 1A and 2A and 1A and 2B. So I'm going to move my other pieces out of the way. My iron is heating up. I'm going to need my washable Elmer school glue stick and my my basting glue with the microfine tip. So we're going to need both of those. And the last thing you'll need is your copied templates. So again, you'll need 4 copies of the piecing templates. Each copy includes template A and template B, and you'll use these to piece your template pieces too. You can use the lightweight foundation, which is what I'm doing here. That's what I've done in the past, or regular paper, but you'll have to tear the papers out. So I'm going to rough cut around the seam allowance line on both of these. So we'll be trimming it up nice and true at the end, so it only needs to be rough cut for now. And I include a little image of the block just to help you have a visual as you're working. And remember, this is a big thing to keep in mind. These templates, these piecing templates, are the mirror image of your finished piece. They are going to be sewn onto the back side. So the right side of your fabric will be here, and so the back side is the printed side is the mirror image. So while this looks like they can be interchangeable, or you can use the pieces on either, you can't. There is an A and a B, and they'll be clearly marked on your pattern. These are my draft patterns, and I forgot to put A and B on it. Your patterns will have A and B written on it. So I just made a little note for myself on the back, which is A and which is B. And you don't need to worry about it for yours, but just so you can keep track of me as I'm working. And I will also refer to template A and template B, which will go along with the patterns that you have in the for the Lotus Star. Okay, so let's start with getting our pressing station set up. Got my glue and my glue stick. You'll need both of those. And I'm going to start with template A, my little note. And we're going to start with piece number 1. 1A is that dark yellow. So what we're going to do is dab a little bit of your glue stick right in the middle of 1A. And then you're going to align your piece 1A right side up with this little area here. The glue is going to keep it in line. Now, how do you know which edge to line up? This piece looks like it's symmetrical, but it is not. So that edge, that was your straight grain edge, goes along this outside edge of your block, because that is a straight edge, which will be cut and sewn into the other block. So it's important to have your straight grain along this edge. So that's kind of how you know. If you're not sure once you've picked up these pieces where the grain is at, give it a little stretch test. See here how when I'm stretching along the actual grain, it doesn't stretch much. When I stretch on these, I get a lot of stretch, no stretch. See? No stretch there. And that's how you know that it's grain lined, so you can place it in its position. You can heat set or not, it doesn't matter. If you're using regular paper, don't heat set this, because you want it to peel off easily without leaving paper behind. The paper will wash away, but I don't know why I need to worry about it. But this foundation will stay in, and if you do it just out of habit like I do sometimes, it's just fine. So the next piece we're going to add on is piece 2A, which is one of our background pieces. So just like we've done in the past, my method that I prefer is I fold up the edge from the outside so I can see that number 1A and make a little crease there. That crease is kind of where that seam line is going to go. So I'm going to draw a fine line of glue on the outside of that seam line, and I'm going to place piece 2A in its position. So it will lay there after being sewn. We have to flip it over and align it with our piece. Now, I want you to notice something. See how these edges match up? That's because of the cutting template. I planned it that way to help you with alignment. So when you use the cutting templates and you align piece 1 and 2, these cut corners should match up pretty darn close. And then this edge will be ish close. You know, it just kind of depends on how straight a cut you made. If you use a rotary cutter, it'll be really matchy-match. I didn't, so it's not super matchy. Go ahead and heat set that, and now you are ready to sew. And with having no shifting, it will stay in its place, and you're just going to sew right on that line. Go ahead and prepare all 8 templates, all 4 of the A's and all 4 of the B's, and that way you can assembly line sew all these. You'll get them done really quickly by preparing everything at once. So let's go ahead and do a number one of the B templates for you. We'll do the same thing. So let me get those yellows. Okay, so we'll just go over it one more time. Put your little dab of glue on that 1B section. You're going to make sure your straight edge is up at the straight edge of your template and get it centered. Now, in case your piece flips over, these two corners cut should be right where piece number 2 will be attaching to piece number 1. If you end up with one of them out here, your piece is mirrored, so you just need to flip that fabric piece over. Okay, so we'll turn this up here, do your little crease, draw a fine line of glue, and we'll take piece number 2B. This is in its position. We'll flip it over, and remember, I made it so those cut corners match up, so it makes it align really nicely for you, and then heat set it. Do this for all of your A templates and B templates, and then you're going to sew each one right along that line that joins piece 1 and piece 2, and then we will be ready to do piece number 3.